So, hello people, and today we have another coloristic topic. So I talked about it a little bit in previous videos, about contrast and brightness in tattoo. So today we're gonna touch this topic a little bit, but not going to dive into. Today we're gonna dive into deep and advanced coloristic. I'm not going to give you any sacral or secret info. I'm gonna tell you secret. I don't have art education, so I was practicing by myself, watching objects laying and shadow drops, so I spoiled a lot of paper and practiced a lot, and look how other people do that. So I'm going to dive into my experience, give it to you, and I think it will be really useful for you. Probably somewhere I'm gonna make some mistakes with those names who have for those who have art education, but I can give you these things that not gonna be given to you at the university, because they don't actually speak about skin. So, but skin, that is really important part in tattoo, as you know. So that is really better to foresee that in advance. So today I'm gonna introduce it for you. Probably also for these who has this art education. So let's go with it. The first thing I'm gonna tell you that I was really afraid of using some kind of complicated colors, you know, dirty, muted pastel, muddy, you know, like natural tints that are all around us all the time. So you won't find any kind of clear color like blue, red or green without any kind of tints. They're really not a lot in our world. So I was always thinking that it's better to use clear colors. They will be more saturated and they will be held much better. And I thought the more saturated color you tattoo or you ink, the more it will be better while it's held. So it doesn't work so. But it works so, but not a panacea for a perfect tattoo. At that moment, I had a man who just literally always was using complicated colors, like muted, bleached colors. So, in my opinion, his works were actually, muted, not actually beautiful in the sense of colorist. So if you draw some kind of, landscape on your iPad, so it's really much better, and in the window you see that the landscape looks the same, but if you do muted colors and tints, bleached or like whitened, and combine all this thing in porridge, like mixed up and ruined, our eye won't actually see that good, like skepticism to the quality, because you will think that tattoo should be not that bleached. If it's bleached, it's kind of old, or so probably maybe inked bad or problems with dew. So the relation to this can be biased, but you can see and tattoo can ink to dance and really good, cool and careful, but looks not actually good, have a lack of contrast or saturation. So usually people who don't actually know anything about tattoo, they can react really wild on tattoo that is really contrast and saturated. So that is really not bad when tattoo looks more, impressively, but actually it doesn't matter, then you cannot use muted and bleached tints in tattoo, they make it better. So I started to add some, bluish gray to some, base clean color, and probably green looks better when it's just like swampy, avocado color, some kind of that. So then I understood that all my tints has changed. So the only color that was really the most saturated, that was red one, and it was gradated with warm red, with orange, like here. I really like that color, I adore it. So, but most of these tints I have that is really complicated colors. So you can use dirty, muted colors in your work. He will add clean accents in colors. So, and after this, your eye can catch this color and can actually understand that is that mood you want to transparent through your tattoo, and that is exact thing to do to have the eye of viewers caught. So probably here saturated color shouldn't be. So for example, the sleeve with carved baroque and skulls, where I have more than 70% with gray cold tone and I mixed it with the orange and red, so it doesn't look turbid or faded, so it looks okay. So on the other hand, I really, react on people who always try to use these dirty tints and try to add them everywhere, and their works look like strange, and if they really dance, they could look dirt. So the dirt work, it means that he made the really dirt basement for all this stuff, and after that you made some other color and maybe you did it not actually dance and you can look skin through it. So the only thing I can recommend you that is combine that right, complicated unsaturated colors with really impressively looking bright colors. So the most useful thing when you use really a lot of complicated pastel faded colors with bright colors, that is less of them, that looks really more presentable. So the other side from all of it, if you have really a lot of bright colors, it seems like a cartoon for us. So maybe you bumped into that client, don't work to do some simple cartoonish works, so they really look like cartoon from children, children drawings, so that is really doesn't make sense, so that is really true. It really works so less of really bright colors, but don't forget about them, and more of complicated, difficult colors that is more realistic and more lifestyle, like they are in our life. So the second thing in all this thing, that is contrast. The contrast is really important in all this thing when you actually use that with our first topic I talked to you about. So if you give really a lot of contrast to the tattoo, your work will never become porridge or mixed up. So the contrast actually makes a sense and do perspective, tattoo, make this form and outline it, so for tattoo to be readable and really visible from the other side. As you know, tattoo eats all the contrast because skin grow over the tattoo, and what was dark makes white, and what was brighter and that was bright become more darker, especially if it is really colorful with really realistic colors, like really complicated, if it's not black and white. That's why I always use outline, because outline can really make that perspective, make that contrast and show everything around that is going on your picture in your tattoo, so it really can do your your ink much better and live forever. But it's not necessary for all tattoos. Also, if you use some kind of drawings without outline, you have to add it. So you can live without outline, but sometimes I try to use black, but usually I don't use black in tattoo, because black after some time become any color but black. It's really easy to save black if you have a lot of bright around. Black looks really good when you have not a lot of colored skin around, or just gray wash or some tint colors. If you begin to ink some other like black, as you notice, so it's more bluish, so and something warm around it, so this black become more cold and looks like blue. So I really try to use black outline on really black objects to do that more dark, so I don't want to outline some red thing with black outline, because it can be dirty or spoiled or other tint that you didn't expect it. We have contrast of all tints, so that is really the main reason of these tints, that is pull your tint to another one when you really need. So that, for example, leaf that is really bright on the light, so let it be not black but really dark green. When you try to mix it, you can really understand that it's really dark green color, and it will look much better, because when it's held, it will become really predictable moment. So another really important moment when you draw something, some object, at least I do, so I don't have, you have to do that, some kind of, you know, paper page, like curved, like a ring, when lights drop from the top, so the lightened part from it should be really brightened with bright tints. They're really pastel. So when the color gets less of light, it become in more saturated color, not as muddy, not as faded. It cannot be faded in the shadow. It's not bleached black, it's really saturated black. So they don't look cartoon, they look really realistic and live really good on skin. As I told you before, muddy object colored with muddy color will be held bad, so we need to catch that balance, and something unsaturated from the top and really something saturated from the bottom. Some kind of middle color will be really look good after it's held. So I really noticed every time that things that is actually colored without black really look more impressively, and they look less dirty and spoiled. And that is really easy to make a gradient while you color all the things together. You really need to pull one color on another when you use outline, and you need to do some link color that should be really dark to not be visible on black, no pixels, and you know, bright a lot, bright enough to not to put another color over it. It's really difficult to pull all these colors through. We have world famous, which I work with a lot. They have all tints, like concentrate, so I need to take more from internal. They are not all good, and they have not all that I need. So don't be mad, not go mad about it, and just mix whatever you want with the colors you need. They're really liquid and actually spoilish. So when you want to color something and then you wipe it, and that previous part will be dirt and you cannot wash it out. So just collect all the concentrates and try to work with everything. So the third moment here, and how colors change with the time. Probably you noticed that not black but colored, some dew can actually change really strange. White become more like creamy, bonish. Blue become more turquoise, and yellow become more, you know, like mustard. And that is actually predictable. That is not random, that you should remember and then use it. That is one simple scheme you gotta catch, and then you can actually predict any result and understand what will be going around like after 3 months or years. So going further, I want to say that if you want to get some turquoise color, not actually greenish but actually turquoise, you need to color it with blue color, not dark blue but blue, and then the man will go with that turquoise color he needed at the beginning. So, but at the picture it won't look like turquoise, it will look like blue, and you don't need it. But then it will look as you wanted it to. So, another thing that is really about skin. So, the skin, like we're gonna talk about usual European skin, like usual bright skin. The darker skin, the worse results. So, we will speak about skin like I have, we all color here in Russia. So, if we gonna talk about all type of skins, our video will be very long. So the skin has kind of yellow tint. Probably you don't see it, but it's like faded yellow that actually covers your tattoo after it's held. So you have to know and have to understand that while you ink, tattoo under skin, not above it, and that layer that is above your tattoo that is yellowish. It's not yellow like a lemon, like banana, but it's like faded yellow color that really adds some warmth to our tint. So our tints that were cold at the beginning, you will move it to warmer color. Just I want to say that if we add some yellow to the blue, it's more like turquoise again. So if we don't add it, it remains blue, but we'll have this yellow from our skin to our final result. So that's why white becomes like creamy. If we add just a little part of yellow, it will be just color of some ivory. Yeah, it works so, but the darker tone, the worse, the more complicated the skin need to change it. If we color and ink black, it won't be just, black with yellow. But if you take some really concentrated dark blue, but with the time it will be dark blue, it won't be just dark blue-green. The more bright color you use, the more warm it will be after it's held than dark tints. Again, if you want to make the color brighter than your color right now, you have to predict it and understand that brighter colors will get like with yellow tone, with yellow tint after they held because of skin again. So actually orange and warm colors not actually work with it, so they cannot actually change, like you won't spoil yellow with yellow. So it really works out with cold tints like blue, green and others. So like blue and turquoise not actually can held like we have them in our pots. So because our skin works, so we cannot actually change it through all this stuff. If we have a lot of warm tints around and we have just really area of blue, it will be really, really noticeable. If you want to change not change your color and want it to save it blue and really cold, don't take that bright color and try to do the darker. That is really predictable, easy and simple to do. So I think anyone from you can really understand and work with it. Also, there is kind of rule that everyone saw that kind of really white, like paper page skin that is really easy to work with it because it doesn't actually spoil the final tint and final color. If you notice that the specter of skin is really dark, you have to worry much more for the finished result, for the final result. There is one more reason why I don't use just clear blue tints. Probably I have, but just many of them, just clear turquoise or blue whitened tints, big, areas of them. So for the sky or something, I don't use them. Because any clear tint is going to be spoiled and not to be clean, going to be dirty and spoiled with the time and with our skin covering it over its held. So that's why I use more grayish tones of blue colors. So the fourth point of everything I wanted to tell you about combinations and how to combine. I've never tried to learn some kind of lists or rules for combining. I just got them through, my own experience. So I noticed that, sequence after I began to work. Probably you've heard about polar colors, that is, not black, that is white, for example. So what is polar to blue? That is orange, for example. So polar is just like antonym, that is another one. So it works right in coloristic. Like black is really contrast to white, and they make real great contrast through all this inking. So black is really dark and white is bright. So they're really not only polar, they really contrast in kind of color. So if you will think about it while using blue and orange, if you will use dark blue and really bright orange, that will be really contrast in temperature, also in bright and dark, and you will have this color contrast very strong and very visible. If we will use like clear colors like orange, they will give you the same, weird cartoons. They're not actually look cool. If you will use just clean blue and clean orange, like both bright, that will be not actually good. So I have my last work where I used these, purple with green and like avocado colors with pink tints, less saturated than clean, like near to skinny tone, and not actually bright. And it doesn't look like, you have to and you want to rip your eye and go away. So as I told you before, blue with dark blue with orange, I make it gray and cold with blue in it, in this combination, and I use orange but really saturated. Thinking about blue that is really faded, so the bright end of orange that is really looks good. I always try to combine these, so they actually look and work cool. So you have bright colors where it's needed, and somewhere it's not actually bright, and some faded muddy colors. So that is about first moment, that is saturation is really have to work in these moments where you need it, not everywhere. You can take any tablet you need and like try to invert color. Like for example, you can draw some red and invert it, and you can see another one. So you can find out what color is polar to another one. So then you whiten it, not to be very bright and saturated, or you make them really saturated because they're muddy and faded. So there is really simple way to combine actually work and useful palette for everything. So the fifth point, the last one, that is for them who have art education. That is really obvious for them. So any objects, when they on light this color, you have to warm. In the shadow you have to make it colder. I tried to experiment with it to do like you have this light and that is really cold, and lighten the part of this object that is really cold and warmer to the dark. So for example, you have this green, and from the top it has like turquoise, and it looks like stupid. So you have to everything that is in shadow, you have to do that colder. That is obviously, and like in real life, you know, when sun drops on the object, it makes it warmer. So you have to work with it while you do that with tattoo, because it really works. So you have to do so, and do not try to experiment, because I did that a lot of times, and that is it doesn't work so with cold tones from the top. So that is 5 points I want to tell you about. So probably I'll add something in other videos or vlogs, but by the way, I hope these 5 points were actually really useful for you. So if you really liked it, put a comment under the video. Probably somewhere I was wrong, but people who have art education, please tell me if something was wrong and I did it wrong or said something stupid. Okay, so subscribe, comment and like. I hope you enjoyed this video.